last week, I think I did 2 videos that I kind of focused on motivation and discipline and, pushing that path. Because I kept pulling that one card and having different aspects of it that were just kind of jumping out at me. It's like, yep, I definitely need to get better at that. So Monday, which I think I did a video a week ago, just showed you how that's gone so far. So yeah, Monday I did do a video, and it was an hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds is where it ended up getting cut off, just with the nature of just how it went. Every single time my dogs start licking herself. Hey. So I did this video, an hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds, and I cut it off. And got visited by a little bee several times, and it just had like random stuff. It's like, what's happening here, right? So I ended up deleting that one, even though it didn't take forever to get into it, despite, that's how the earlier ones had gone. At the same time I deleted that one, I put the one that I had done the Thursday before that on private, because it's like, it talks about like different layers of the stuff with like the boundary issues with my dad, or feeling how, like I was always not actually a part of the family thanks to my grandpa, and then like other stuff with an uncle. It's like, and I posted it, and it was fine, but I just started questioning myself on it again. Now, of course, my most recent tattoo I've talked about was a dedication to, or I set the intention to stop second guessing myself, and then there I go again. And it actually worked out that way. Well, I haven't decided if I want to post it again or not. Come back to the water bowls. So they stop so Ziva stops licking her leg. Yeah, but I don't know what I want to do with it. And then, since I've kind of been on a little standstill on that one, it was kind of a weird thing on Monday. I don't know if it was before or after I did the video. I think it was probably after. I stumbled onto this video. I think it was Journey to Union was the page, and like the whole point of her video was divine feminine, step out of fear. And I had just pulled some cards, like as I was clicking on the video. I was like, I'll half listen to this while I'm doing my own thing, right? And all the cards that jumped out, there were like 7, had at least 5 of them had a direct reference to moving beyond fear, or one talked about hawk as a fearless bird, and another was this phantom shark, which the whole point is, if you're basically running from something or avoiding doing something out of fear, then you're basically feeding the fear anyway, and fear's usually, and it's an illusion. Like whatever it is that's stopping you is, basically your head making stuff up. And sometimes there's, with good reason, but all just stuff to stand in the way, basically. And the last card of that one was small steps, big accomplishments, and it said start taking action, a little bit of action every day toward your goal will eventually get you there. Whereas otherwise, if you just sit around and worry about how it's going to go or how people are going to take it or whatever, then you don't go anywhere. Spend a lot of time not going anywhere. But since I'm so frustrated, like on the one video that I put private, because it's like, on the one hand, I can very much see how that is something, like the point of the video is something that could help. At the same time, there's this other level where it's like, other situations it might not help. It's like, which is the most beneficial way to go, because I'm also trying to move past the getting stuck in the past thing, and you know, there was a level there, but at the same time, the purpose of this channel is to show my healing journey in all of its glory and ugliness. And yeah, you know, so I still haven't decided what I'm doing with it. I kind of feel like I want to put it back, and then I kind of am just like, I don't know. Yeah, but you know, as the ongoing issue, you know, with my father, that I have talked about so many times on here. I watched this Nordic Light tarot reading yesterday, and she was talking about your current situation. There are people around you that are very much trying to keep you stuck in old ways, and they're not going to change, so you kind of have to just navigate through it, do your own thing, and try not to get roped back in. It's like, it's so hard not to. Yeah. So, it's that whole thing. You know, I've watched other videos that have talked about the boundary thing. The boundary thing is an ongoing thing, so let's just go there. So, there's this level of trying, like, I'm very much trying to keep from getting pulled back into the drama that is all around me in my current living situation, and I, at this present moment, have nowhere to go. So we're just kind of stuck right now. But I am thankful that it is a work in progress. I know that it feels very much like I am stuck, because it does. But I also know that if I keep talking like that, it will keep me stuck. And I don't want to do that. I would very much like to be not stuck. So yeah, you know, there's all of my videos, I think, have had some layer where the big issue is the lack of boundaries with particularly my father. And, you know, when I was starting out last year, mind you, he doesn't know I'm doing any of this. He has seen my little picture and what the channel's called, but thankfully I think the universe has moved him away from that, so he hasn't had the opportunity to check it out, because I would have heard by now if he had. But, you know, last year, when I started this, in November, we're moving in on a year, I had one video where, like, the whole thing was just this stress, and the issue of the day was that we'd gotten into it and he'd called me a dumb bitch, right? So, you know, and then I think back to the video I did on my birthday this year, so back in July, you know, and it was talking about the cage, and it's like, yeah, still working on this, trying to figure this whole thing out, right? And yeah, not knowing. So on Wednesday, my mom asked me to take my grandma to her hair appointment. And since they only have this great big truck, everybody thought it's safe for my grandma not to drive the truck over to the area with a little parking lot and all that fun stuff. So I took her over there. And my dad had sent me a message a little earlier saying that he and my brother were going out for lunch and did I want to join them. It's like, well, I would, but I told Mom I'd take Grandma to her appointment. So, you know, he starts shifting things around with their plans, and it ended up working out where they went and got their food at this little restaurant in town. And then my grandma and I went over and joined them afterwards, so they'd already eaten by the time we got there, which it wasn't a really busy place anyway, so no big deal. But you know, we joined and it was fine, and everybody was cooperative and agreeable, and we had a decent lunch together, right? Then that afternoon I came over here and was skating, and it was still fine, right? Then I get a phone call from my dad. Man picks the freaking windiest day of the week to go up on the roof with a leaf blower and basically got himself stuck, because every time he would start to get ready to go down the ladder, nobody was home. Then the wind would pick up real big, and it's like, well, lucky for you, I'm almost done. I mean, I had thought about skating another mile, because it was 6 miles that I wrapped up on. I thought about going another one, but I decided not to. And I had just gotten back, or I was on my way back to the car. He was going to try connecting with my uncle who lives next door, or my brother. Didn't know what the situation was there. I told him to send me a message when he figured anything out. When I get back to the car, I have several messages, and you know, there's the thread from my mom saying, can you go rescue your dad, he's on the roof. There's a thread from my brother saying, guess what dad did? It's like, yeah. And can you go home, we're at a restaurant and the food just got here. It's like, all right. And then my dad had sent me another message and said, well, your brother's coming after they finish up at the restaurant, so I'll just hang out up here until somebody gets back. It's like, dude, what the heck, man? I got there. And, I mean, aside from making the smart-ass remarks, what'd you do? I mean, because you gotta acknowledge that somehow. I neglected to take a picture of him stuck on the roof, which my brother found unfortunate. It's like, damn it, because he totally would have too. Yeah, so my brother and I are a lot alike. Yeah, so, you know, we had, my brother actually ended up pulling in the driveway right after I gotten into the garage and got another ladder out and got it set up, so he was able to step on the top of the second ladder and maneuver back to the first ladder to get down. It was kind of scary, and I'm pretty sure that second ladder needs to be thrown away, because it did not make me feel real I love that dog. Real secure with its usage. So yeah. So it'll probably go. But anyway, my dad had just gotten down, and then my brother pulls in the driveway. So of course he comes rolling up. He's got his wife and his kid in the car. And we all gotta kind of harass him, because it's like, seriously, of all the freaking days to go on the roof, you choose the windiest and also wait till nobody's at home. Good idea. Clearly. So that was a whole thing. Awesome. There's a guy with two little kids in front of me, and I'm hoping they are not coming the long way to the playground so my dogs will go off. Taz is watching. Alright. They're not. They're going in a door over there. Thank God. Anyway, it was fine. It was a decent evening, right? You know, and my brother and I find reasons to joke about anything, but especially to razz our parents, and not out of disrespect or anything, just to give them a hard time for doing silly shit. You know, that's, I mean, it's only right. Anyway. So, that night, oh shit, just kind of hit the fan, I guess. I don't even know how it came about, but my dad ends up sending me this video link, and it says something about watch all of this, or please watch all of this before you respond. Don't be hypnotized or whatever, some weird dumb shit. Anyway, I was like, here we go. And you know, he had followed it up with a couple other messages, and it's like, ugh. It's like, and that is why this is an issue. This is, you know, so I had like we had some words, and it's so aggravating because he even said at one point, we basically have a similar point of view, but we're coming from different directions. And it's like, right, so why do you keep feeling like you have to fix mine? How do you know that yours is the one that is right and mine is the one that needs adjusted because it's not like yours? Basically, it was the premise. It was a whole long ordeal, and then it's like very aggravating. And I sent my brother screenshots of the entire conversation. He's like, okay. You know, and he initially didn't like, I mean, not this last time, but historically, when I have started trying to enforce my boundaries, he has not always been extremely favorable on that end. And mainly because he doesn't fully understand how deep it goes, why I'm as set on the boundaries as I am, as far as I refuse to back down on my boundaries. Like, it has taken me a ridiculously long time where I continuously get pulled back into other people's shit before I really understood why boundaries are so important for me. And now that I have, I'm not going back on that. So I would appreciate it if he would stop making me have to address it. But here we are. He's going to keep sending me the same stupid videos that I don't want to hear, and then I keep telling him I don't want to hear. And I'm still going to say stuff because I'm tired of saying, hey, stop sending me shit, and still getting shit sent to me, and with the note of, don't be hypnotized. It's like, shut up, dude, just shut up. So that was frustrating, but you know, I kind of left my mom out of that one. I sent a couple of my friends the screenshots, and they're like, whoa. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And, it's like, he obviously doesn't get it. And it's like, there is an aspect where we have similar viewpoints. Yes, but then he just kind of wanders off and takes it a whole different direction that I refuse to go. And I think the biggest thing is he's focused on a fear and staying locked in the fear. And I'm trying very much to not, and to do things because I'm trying to grow as a person and have a better life than the one I realized I've kind of been stuck in. And there's been a whole lot on this journey the past year where I have found how deeply that goes and how important it is for me and why it is so important for me. And no, I'm not backing down on that. So it's really frustrating when it just keeps being an issue, and then Friday he tried talking about something different, and it's like, I know the way he was setting it up was all set to show me how right he is. It's like, nope, deflected. Because, okay, Wednesday night at 3:00 in the morning, I fed my dogs, but I did not open the dog door to let them out like I usually do because I was listening to an owl. It's like, I don't know what that owl looks like. I don't know what the story is. I'm pretty sure my dogs aren't going to be able to be carried off by an owl because they're kind of big, but I'm not going to take any chances either. They can just wait. And I went back to bed for a little while, and it's like, I can't not. So I went back in there and I put a note I taped a note over the dog door, and said that at 3:00 there was an owl. And I didn't let mine out. And so Thursday, my dad says, so you saw an owl? It's like, no, I didn't see an owl. I would have had to go outside at 3:00 in the morning to do that. I was not, because it was chilly that night. Usually just open the dog door, let them go. They do their business, put the dog door back in, end story. Go back to bed. But that one was like, I'm hearing it. And I was there for a while too, because the entire time they were eating, it's like, yeah, I'm not taking that chance. And he said, so you saw an owl or whatever, and it's like, no, I heard. And he's like, oh, well, he said, you remember back to when I saw that owl back in, it was like 2004, and what happened, don't you? And it's like, oh, fill me in. I knew where he was going with it. And he said he saw an owl in the backyard, and then within the month, his dad had died. And he has said for a long time that he has always heard that owls, if you see them, are basically, they're bringing in death or something. It's like, okay, well, there's been drama in the family. Obviously, my grandparents aren't doing fabulous, and that's kind of, I think we're at the point where my grandma's expecting that we just brought my grandfather home, because that's new. That happened yesterday. Basically to die, which is not the intent by any means. It was there's some confusion with what they thought they had insurance wise, and they didn't have as much coverage as they thought they did, and they booted him out because, I mean, he was in some kind of long-term, well, in some type of care facility for 9.5 weeks, and insurance stopped paying. They're like, we're done, figured out. So my grandma and I think my grandpa, he's of the mind that we're going to get him hurt. And she's of the mind that we just brought him home to die. And it's just a whole lot of drama. But since I heard an owl, my dad tried to bring that into the thing the other day. And I was like, let me just show you this little gentleman. Hey, Tezzy. It's like, okay, well, when I was with a ex-boyfriend back in like 2008 or something, 2009, it's like we were driving through and saw a big ass owl take off from a mailbox, and I don't think anyone died after that. I will say though, the catch on that one is I don't remember what year exactly it was. My great grandma did die in 2010, but I think there was enough of a gap that it's not in any way connected. But I at least threw that out there, and it's like, But then I was thinking about the one where I woke up one morning when I was working at this factory, and I felt very strongly like I was supposed to go in or wait 2 hours to go into work. And I could not think for the life of me why I would possibly sit out 2 hours when I was already awake and there was nothing going on. It's like, well, why? So I didn't. I went ahead and went in. And that was the day that my two main paths to work that I was most familiar with both had a lot of construction going on and had like sections of them where they were completely closed. So I ended up on this other route, which had this S curve on it, and I ended up getting hit by a school bus. And it was very slow speed, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat, and I like just stopped moving. It's like, why are you still going? Stop and let me get through it, because you can clearly see that I am here. And this lady just keeps on going. It's like, so I just stopped, and it's like, all right, well, she's gonna hit me. So she started going real slow, but she started acting like she thought the middle of the bus was gonna bend to go to the curve or something, because where else was I gonna go? She had plenty of time to slow way down before she entered into that last curve, and it's just like, I got nothing, and I'm sitting there in the driver's seat, and I got my foot on the brake because I'm just waiting. And I had been listening to the song. There was a song on the radio. I was like, yes, I get to hear the song all the way through before I go to work. And then like, as soon as I see this happening in slow motion, I just turn the volume off. It's like, nope, so much for that. And then I hear this kid on the bus say, oh, you're gonna hit her. And it's like, yep, thanks. And there it goes. And it was apparently a middle school bus and some middle school kid. Yeah. So we ended up having to, obviously, because I didn't know how to get out of the curve because there was a drop in the ditch next to me. And I didn't know how deep it was because that was like the second time I'd been through there, and it was not well lit either time. So it looked gigantic, but I didn't know what it actually was. It might have flipped me over had I just, had it been a faster impact or something and I actually gone into it, but did not. Since I was stopped, it's like, I don't know what's over there. I don't know anything. So, yeah. So it's like immediately just get on the phone, call 911. It's like, hey, there's an accident and we're in an S curve and I don't know how to get out of it at this point, but there's a school bus involved, and you say school bus and they definitely get there in a hurry, but then it's a freaking curve, so you know, it was like one of those where you couldn't see at all because like there's a whole lot of trees right there. So it's like if somebody was coming through there real quick and didn't pay attention, it could have been a bigger problem. But it was a big enough problem. But I ended up I ended up being 2 hours late to work. It's like, oh, if I would have just called in and said, hey, I'm gonna be a little late, I would have missed that whole thing and not had the damage on the car and all that fun stuff, because that was a whole thing in and of itself too. So I don't even remember. I mean, we got it fixed. I don't think it took that long, but it's just like, seriously. So that the reason I went into that one was because just a few days later, I think it was the same week. Gidge. Got more licking. We had I don't remember if my grandma or my uncle called me to say that there was an owl behind the fence. I think it was my grandma. She knows I love owls. And apparently, what I found out this week was he had apparently been after the neighbor's chickens. I don't know what happened, that he got his wing injured, but he ended up getting his wing injured and like he couldn't fly off. So there's a bunch of us wanting to check out the owl, right? Of course, my family anyway, because we all live right there. I found a number to contact for this Indiana Raptor Society or something. Sorry. Oh, don't. Went down the wrong way. Are you done? Please be done. Sorry. That was gross. Yeah, so I contacted this Indiana Raptor Association, and they were going to send somebody out. They said what I could do to catch it and put it in a safe space, put it somewhere dark and covered, and there's like this whole process, make sure you have gloves, have a blanket, flip it over its head if you can, and pin its wings down, which I have birds, granted small birds, cockatiels, and had budgies at the time, and my borks, but he spuked on the chair, so now he's licking it up. That's gross, stop. Yeah, so I was like, I have the idea. I know it is important to cover the head completely and to pin the wings down, because, they start flipping around just right, and I don't want to get bit. I don't want to get taloned, any of those fun things. But I go in the house and collecting all of the things that I would need for this project that I'm willing to endeavor into. And I walk in the house, my mom's on the phone, and she makes some smart-ass remark to somebody and says, what is it? My tender-hearted daughter thinks she can go out there and wrangle this owl because she has little birds and blah, blah, blah. It's like, don't be a bitch. But there was enough of a hesitation by the time I went back out. It introduced that second-guessing myself thing all over again. It's like, and then as I was walking, I was going to try to continue this project anyway. Other people have been capable of catching these things when they're injured and not getting wounded, so that was my intention, and I was pretty confident I could handle it until I, just countered my mom's energy at just the right time. It's like, it's just, so I go back out there, slowed down a little bit, and when I get back out there, it's gone. And my uncle said he thought he saw it go into our neighbor's property, which they have a bunch of farmland, and they had like a bunch of tall grass grown up in that area. It's like, well, he got that far, so he's not horribly injured. Maybe he just strained something and can chill in the grasses for a little while and then be okay. I don't know. My grandma said the other day that the guy did actually come out. It's like, I don't remember that because I called him back and said, never mind, couldn't find him. But yeah. And she said it was like this really old little dude, and she was like, what are you gonna do? It's like, yeah. Well, I mean, since my family's so encouraging, anybody thinks they're gonna do anything, let's just talk them down so they don't do anything. Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, I talked about that one. It's like, that one, nobody died around that time. That, like, the close connection that he was expecting. I mean, there was a whole pandemic, but that had already been going on. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I was finally looking forward to doing something worthwhile, and then just got, let me just pop your little balloon kind of a thing. So, yes. But yeah, I mentioned that story, and, you know, as I was walking back to the house, kind of bummed because everything fell through, and it was just that moment where I went in the house and my mom was there, and like real snippy, like I was out of line to try helping this bird. And it's like, just that little bit. And as I was walking back to the house, I just kind of had this revelation. It's like, that, okay, owls, you know, they kind of, I've always seen them to represent wisdom and intuition, right? And the owl was wounded and couldn't fly away. And, you know, in that moment I was like, that's kind of like my intuition. And school bus, that was a recent thing, you know, very recent at that time. And then, you know, the deal with my mom right then, it's like that owl, my intuition gets wounded, and then I just get stuck. So yeah. Friday I mentioned, or asked my mom if my dad had told her anything about it, and she said, well, he started to, and then stopped. And then, like, I was like, I could just show you the screenshots, and then, because she called me, I don't even remember what she called me because my grandma had stayed home that day, because they knew at that point on Friday that my grandpa would be coming home yesterday, which is Saturday. So she wanted to clean. That was her big thing. She had to clean. And it's like, all right, so I go over there, and it's like, there wasn't a whole lot of cleaning happening. She was trying to empty out a bookcase that ended up going over to my aunt's house yesterday. Because, I mean, the big reason on that one was it was in the main hallway, and he's going to have to be in a wheelchair if he is going anywhere, because he's not reliable with a broken leg still. So, yeah, so she wanted that out of the way. But also, she's trying to, anybody, you know, of the stuff we're not using, get it out of the house, kind of a thing. So there is this curio cabinet that she has said for years is mine, and it had all these birds in it. So Friday, my project ended up being to go over there and get all the birds out of it, and move it to our house and get it out of her way so it's not something that she's bitching about anymore. And Thursday was when it had come up, and I told her then, I said, I don't have a place for it just yet. I think I have a couple ideas, but I need to, you know, figure some stuff out first. I was there, I think, to measure it that day. And So no, that was Wednesday. After I went to drop her off, I went ahead and measured it that day because she'd been talking about it. And she just kept telling everybody what they're supposed to take when they die or whatever. It's like, clearly she just wants the stuff out of the house now, and I think she's at the point where she knows that that's not far off anymore, and she just wants people to take their shit so there's less shit to have to worry about after something does happen to them. And I say them because I'm pretty confident they're not planning to stay very long past the death of the other one, so however that ends up working out. But, okay, Wednesday, we talked about it. I measured the thing. I said, I'm not ready for it just yet, but I will make it happen soon. Thursday, my mom comes home and says, well, she's really pushing. And yes, it would. And she said, my mom claimed that my grandma said that the birds had to go, even though my grandma had said the day before that they were there for me whenever I was ready to get them. So either way, it was like, it just became easier let me just go over there and get my stuff. So Friday, when my mom calls after she's dealt with my grandma and she's all wound up because she doesn't know how the birds are going to get moved and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I already have a plan. I said, I have some of my summer clothes pulled out, like my leggings mainly is what was in it, and a few tank tops. I was like, I'm taking that bucket, I'm taking another bucket, and I'm just going to wrap them in my summer clothes, take them home, or get the cabinet home and take them home, and then put them back together, and then go about my business, and that's what ended up happening, and it was just fine. And I wasn't sure how heavy this thing was going to be, so I ended up having my dad go help me move it. And then when I started moving, it's like, I need his help. And he had parked in the chair at my grandma's and was like, he helped me get it in the car and everything, which I think that part was good to have assistance on. But when I got back over to the house, my dogs were ready for their walk because I skipped that morning to do this other thing instead. And I was like, there's no reason I can't move that on my own. And it was a little awkward, and we only went a few inches at a time because I didn't want to mess anything up. So it was up, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle down kind of a thing, but it worked. And I got it all set up, and it's just lovely. But when I was, like for the longest time, like when she started talking about these birds, it's like, what am I going to do with the cabinet of birds? She doesn't do anything with the cabinet of birds either. They were just like figurines that my mom or my great grandma had got her, or my aunts even. So yeah, it worked out. It was fine. And honestly, when I was putting them back, there were actually some like cooler things than I had even realized. Because I never paid much attention to what was in the closet or in the cabinet. I knew there'd be blue jays and cardinals because she always loved those. And I was hoping there would be a good eagle somewhere. And there was. I have like this one statue. It's like 2 eagles with a nest of 3 or 4 babies. Like, that's pretty cool. So, and then like, as I was going through stuff, I found this one thing that it was like plastic, but also obviously handcrafted, because like there was like real extensive detailed work on this like little scene. And I like took it to my grandma. I was like, all right, what's the story with this? This is kind of cool. And she said she had worked with somebody that was from Vietnam and had given it to her. It's like, that's pretty cool. And then somebody else she had worked with at some point gave her like this little thing that had 2 pelicans, and they were like made out of shells and something. And she said that one's from Texas, and she couldn't remember who gave it to her or what the backstory was on it. And it's like, might not be reliable in getting any of the backstories out of any of them, but there's still some pretty cool statues. And there's some that I wasn't really sure about at first, but I just put those down toward the bottom until I figured that out, But then most of them are like music boxes even. It's like, just wind them up and play this song and then put them on the shelf and listen to it while I was cleaning off the others. And it's like, that was effective until it's like, well, now the statue's facing the wrong way. So I got to turn it around like every single time. Yeah. But it ended up being really cool stuff anyway. And it made me think, like, okay, I've heard a lot of like tarot readers that have commented about birds, and I've always known birds were important at some level, because obviously my grandparents have always loved eagles, and everybody else is really fascinated with them because they've always had these statues, the calendars, all this fun stuff. And there were some nesting in Greenfield, which is not too far from us, so every now and then get to see some cool stuff. I've got pictures of one that was over the pond behind our house. That was kind of cool. And then it's like, I keep having these moments where I get the opportunity to get a picture of like these really cool birds. Like the vultures that were at the cemetery, and there were like 4 of them, 3 were on the pavement, and there was like this tiny little mouse. It's like, man, I feel like y'all are there for you're gonna be disappointed with that one. I see vultures all the freaking time, like seriously, almost daily. I don't think I have today, but like it's frequently. This past week I was over at the cemetery walking the dogs one day, and there were like 15 of them flying overhead. It's like some around here, and I stopped, and it was very difficult because the dogs were wanting to walk because we just started walking. It's like, dude, I gotta get a picture of this because otherwise nobody's gonna believe me, or they'll be gone, whatever. And I got a little short video, got a couple pictures that weren't real good because I had dogs pulling on my wrist when I was trying to take the pictures. But it was still pretty cool. And as soon as I put the phone down and started walking away, I looked up, and then they'd started flying to the south. And by the time we got like, I don't know, probably like 50 feet away, they were all gone. It's like, see, I would have missed that completely, and that was awesome. You can't see what they are in the pictures, but it's still pretty cool. And then there was one day when I was driving home from work, and there was a hawk on the power line that goes over the drive that we live off of. It's like, I was like, since this is a private drive, I can get a picture of this dude. And I did. And then last week I got the one of the hawk on the nursing home, and my aunt opened the car door and he turned his head back, so it ended up being a cool picture. And then I got the picture of the wounded owl, because obviously, that doesn't happen every day, so you gotta memorialize it. But yeah, I have pictures that I printed off, that I've taken: the vulture, the owl, and the first hawk. I haven't had a chance to print the second one off, but I'll get there. There's like, birds are obviously important to me because they keep showing up, and they always have in some form throughout my life. So that's always been something. And I think the biggest point was, that it's always kind of a nudge that at some point in time I'm going to have to endeavor using my voice, kind of a thing. And well, I don't know if I've talked about this. I think I have, but when I was first starting, before I started the YouTube thing, I had this day, took a couple pictures in the backyard, pictures of me, and had like this random blue orb that was like on my shoulder. It's like, I know that there's the whole scientific idea of what it is and all that shit. It's like, I feel very much, especially because it was very centered around my neck, that it was a nudge on the project involving using your voice. It's like, okay. And that was before this whole thing started. And so I had 2 pictures that had it in it and then 2 pictures that didn't. It's like, and I pulled a card that was talking about, I wanted to say it was my, one of my energy oracle decks, wanting to say Archangel Gabriel. I will not swear to that. I will have to look it up. But it had something to do with the throat chakra and sending an orb of blue light for healing and to get you ready for this thing. And it's like, clearly I'm supposed to be doing something ASAP, right? And then the day that I did my first video, somewhere around the time frame, I did a video at the cemetery, and there were these really loud and obnoxious blue jays that were everywhere. It's like they were following us and just yelling at us. It's like, oh, hey. Okay, blue jays, they're very vocal, and they're very, and they're blue, which is throat chakra, and they are big mouths. So obviously those details were all important. So then, I go through this cabinet, and it's like, I feel a lot more connected to these things than I thought I would. It's like, that's pretty cool. So, and there are swans, and there are sparrows, and there are blue jays, and cardinals, and lovebirds, and bluebirds, and there's a couple little weird things. Like, I don't know if one's like a pheasant or something weird. I don't know. And some geese. I don't love geese, but they're there, so whatever. Yeah. I mean, but they're still kind of cool. So, yeah. Oh, this morning, okay, I sent my friend Ben a message yesterday. It's like, all right, so it was like, current situation, not real. He asked me how he's doing yesterday. It's like, good, but also aggravated because I had to ask my mom to borrow some money, and I hate doing that because everything about it is you're not doing, her whole energy is just, you're not doing enough, and obviously I have to save your ass kind of a thing. It's like, see, and honestly, there is the whole toxic environment, and the way I grew up was not to be an individual and to figure out what I wanted or was supposed to do with my life or wanted to do with my life. It was to be available to take care of family, and however I made money, as long as it fit into this one set scenario, was fine. But the current situation, since there's been a whole lot of healing and a whole lot of just navigating through question marks and not knowing the path ahead, I set the intention last year when I got the lip ring and the nose ring that I would never again work in a job that asked me to be anything less than 100% who I am. And however I am. So one of the big things that happened was shortly after I set that intention and I got the piercings and all that stuff, I had this thing come up where, I got kind of hooked on these songs, and it's like they are, I'm probably gonna have, nope, I don't know why everybody's parking over there, but whatever. Anyway, I was like, I was working a job I didn't love, and I needed it briefly to tie up some loose ends, but still there was a lot of with it. And I was listening to these songs that honestly seemed very much connected to the ridiculousness of my being there anyway. And yeah. You know, this one particular day I went in and I had this song play, and it's like, and I just realized like the irony of what I'm listening to in the song and what I'm walking into work-wise. It's like, oh yeah. You know, I laughed a lot because I realized it was like this, like my intuition, my higher self, my twin flame, if you will, energy was communicating to me through music. And then I go in and the shift was chaotic and like bad chaotic. And I got super stressed and anxious in like no time. And then, you know, I got this voice communicating with me saying, okay, I said, this is temporary. I'm not going to be here for long. You know, everything's going to be all right. I'm not going to be here. Something to that effect. But it was like, I had this response come back at one point saying, so why are you here? It's like, fuck, I don't know. So, yeah. But shortly after that I did quit because actually one of the selling points on it, I had already told my manager and some of the people that I was working with this one particular Monday that it's like, I think this might be my last week. It's like, I feel like I'm not supposed to be here anymore. And, you know, they were mostly surprisingly favorable responses was, hey, what are you going to do? And it's like, I think I'm supposed to be focusing on the writing stuff that I have known that I'm supposed to be doing at some level. You know, and I had a bunch of people that were like, yes, do it, you know, and very supportive, and hate to see you go, but love to see or to hear that you're pursuing something that you love, kind of a thing. And then the guy that trained me was pissed because all the good people were leaving. It's like, sorry, dude. You know, but I had like, there were a couple difficult people that I ended up working with on the shift. It's like, you know, after a rough start, it's just a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, I think this is my last week. And then, you know, by the end of the shift, I had pretty much said that. No, that was Friday. I don't remember how all the time worked. Yeah, I think I said Friday would be my last day because I worked Monday and Friday. And, you know, I had to tell the temp agency that I worked for, and that was the one that I had a hard time. Hey, quit. Taz, quit. Had a hard time following through on. And it was, you know, I left shift on Monday, and then Tuesday was just kind of dragging my feet about it. And then there was this little ordeal where my aunt, I was with my aunt for a little while during the day, and she said something about a dead hawk, and it's like, what are you talking about? And she said, there's a dead hawk in the road in front of my house. It's like, what? It's like, why am I just now hearing about this? You know, so when we got back to her house, it was surprisingly in good shape, but we went over to my house first, and I grabbed a box and some gloves, and then we went over to her house, and somehow it must have only been hit the one time that killed it, because it was still completely intact, wasn't squashed all to hell and all that stuff. Just like, we can't leave it there, so I picked it up and we took it over to her yard and buried it. And my grandpa he kept showing up, because, you know, this is last year, so it's been a while. He's just like, throw it in the trash. Nobody cares. Throw it in the trash. It's like, I cannot do that. You know, this bird was just doing his thing, and, you know, a truck was probably the end of him. So we buried him, and I was like, that has to mean something. And the website, that, like, the first thing that popped up when I said symbolism of a dead hawk, like the first thing that comes up on my phone says, you're not trusting yourself. It's like, son of a bitch. Of course I'm not. We knew that. You know, I was dragging my feet about it, and I still drug my feet a little bit more that day, but I did finally talk to the guys with the temp agency that evening. I decided to wait until second shift because I worked second shift, so it's like, well, I mean, the second shift guys are the ones that have to deal with me anyway, so and the guy was like, oh, sorry to hear that, and, you know, can I ask your reason why? And it's like, I feel like I needed this situation to set up a regular writing routine, and now that I have that accomplished, I think it's time to go focus on that again. And he's like, okay, understand. It's like, just let me know if it's Friday or Monday is gonna be your last day. And it's like, yeah, it was gonna be Friday. It ended up being Friday because it's like, when I went in on Friday, it's like, I had a couple more of those coworker moments. It's just like, hey, I already told them. I'm just not doing this anymore, you know. And then the next week, of course, because I couldn't do the easy way and tell my parents that I'd quit this job, they were so excited about. And I don't know why it would. I guess I do. It's that whole energetic boundaries and the disappointment that you feel pouring out into your soul because you did something that was not what was acceptable, you know. And I had that whole thing, like, I was anxious about it all weekend, and then by the time Monday rolls around, I didn't leave the house at the time that I would have to go to work, and I was in the backyard playing ball with kids instead. And it's like this conversation has to happen, just go have it. And it's like, don't want to. You know, of course, back then I was not protecting my boundaries, so now I understand that a whole lot more too, you know. And like, there's still that level, like, where when I had to ask my mom to borrow a little bit of money to pay these bills, the thing that happened, I have like very limited hours left through December for the respite care I do with my niece, and when I was trying to figure out how much I had for each week, I used that time last week and ended up getting paid 16 cents. It's like, that's not gonna pay anything. So I had like 4 bills that were due, and it's like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet, just do it anyway. And one of these days, when everything else has come together and I can finally escape the situation I am in, I will I will make up for it. But just that whole having to do it thing, and you know, the Nordic Light reading that I was watching yesterday, like, the people around you are not going to change. It's like, I know, and that's part of the problem. That's part of why it's so difficult. Anyway, here we are. And I'm hungry, and I'm pretty sure the kids are hungry, but they're like being real good. Even they stopped licking the chair or the themselves. So yeah. Oh, Ben, I did not finish that point. Ben and I were talking, or I told him that whole scenario about having to ask my mom for money. It's like, you know, and she She didn't say anything, but she came in and threw the money at me and walked out like kind of huffy. And it's like, and I just mentioned that whole thing. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry that came up like that. What are you going to, sorry, your job situation, it's not going well. What are you going to do? And it's like, I said, honestly, I will probably be, I'm going to go ahead and just use up whatever I have with the hours respite care wise, because I need to take Ziva in for her shots too. She's very past due. And I said, after that, I'm working on selling some things. And also, it's like, I know this isn't ideal, but probably going and getting my little gift card for donating platelets and trading it to my mom for $20 here and there. Because I can get I get gift cards whenever I go. But yeah, it's like, right now I'm just biding my time, because there's not a whole lot of Christmas presents that I have to get, honestly. And on last year, it's like I was about sick to my stomach over the whole Christmas thing anyway, because it was kind of not as tricky as it's feeling this year, but still not ideal. And so it's like January, it'll reset, it'll be all right. And in the meantime, I'm going to figure out how to dive more into these projects that I know I am supposed to be working on. And this morning I was having a hard time sleeping for a while, and so in kind of daydream mode. This hair situation is windy. But I was, trying to think of some stuff, and I had like writing ideas that were coming to mind right and left, and it's like, I don't think that's going to be the thing that pays me right away, so I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And he sent me a message saying something about maybe we should start a podcast. It's like, I keep getting these messages that I need to start collaborating, and I thought about mentioning it to you a while back to see if that was something we could come up with. And it's like, but what would we do? He's like, we'll figure it out. It's like, okay, I'm in. It's like, I don't know how we're going to figure out all the details, because he's got a much busier situation than I do, because, he has kids, first off, and he's been doing a lot of physical therapy trying to get ready to go back to work, because he had some surgeries and whatnot that slowed him down. So it's like, I don't know what we're going to do. We'll figure it out. And then today I skated like 10 miles, and like the whole time I was just thinking about it. It's like, dude, we got to do this. That's all I know. Is we got to do it. So that's on the agenda. Yeah, so that maybe where my discipline goes, who knows. I feel like something like that with another person in collaboration probably be easier, because I won't be dragging my feet of what am I going to say, how am I going to start this, all that bullshit. So, but I'm still glad that I have done this part of it, because like where I was a year ago and where I am now feel like completely different arenas. And I feel like things are starting to come together, even though I don't have the tangible proof just yet. I still feel like things are shifting, and at very least they are shifting immensely in me. So and that's the biggest thing, is to conquer the inner voices telling me that, or like the energies around me saying that I'm a disappointment because I'm not doing something more than what I am doing, even though nobody knows what I am doing, because I'm confident they would get in the middle of it and try to destroy it, basically. That's what it amounts to. And I'm not okay with that. So I'm trying to start something, do something different for myself, to get me to a better life situation, because my entire life that was not the purpose that was put on me, and didn't matter who I was or what I liked or any of that stuff. All that mattered was that I was available to help with the family drama, as you know, as the grandparents go away and the parents become the ones needing all the attention. And I can already tell that they're going to kind of stay in the mindset of needing's not helpful. And you know, it's not going to get easier if I don't figure things out for myself. It's just, I won't go anywhere, and I'm not staying here forever. I refuse. So I would just figure out what's next. And I think a collaboration with Ben would be very promising, and I'm interested to see how things play out on that end. So in the meantime, I'm going to take these kids home and feed them. And I mean, if I time this just right, we can have another video that's an hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Nope, I'm going to miss it. That's all right. If I wouldn't have said that, I probably would have. Yeah. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you. And until the next time, see ya.